In the late summer of 1485, England was exhausted. Decades of bloodshed had scarred the land. Families had been divided by loyalty and betrayal, and the crown itself had changed hands through violence. The Wars of the Roses had finally ended on the battlefield at Bosworth Field, where King Richard III was killed and Henry Tudor emerged victorious. He would soon be crowned Henry VII, the first Tudor king. London prepared for celebration. Bells rang through the narrow streets. Merchants reopened their shops. People gathered with cautious hope, believing that peace, at last, had come to England. Then, almost immediately, something else arrived. Not an army, not a rebellion, not famine or fire. It arrived quietly, invisibly, and it killed with terrifying speed. The first victims complained of a sudden, inexplicable chill, as though an icy wind had passed straight through their bodies. Within minutes, that chill gave way to intense internal heat. The body burned. Sweat erupted from the skin in heavy, relentless waves. Clothing became soaked. Bedding turned damp. The heart began to race violently, pounding as if trying to escape the chest. Fear followed. Not ordinary fear, but a crushing sense of doom, an overwhelming certainty that something was terribly wrong. Many never made it past this stage. Some collapsed within hours. Some died before nightfall. Some went to sleep and never woke again. England had encountered plague before. It knew the slow terror of pestilence, the visible signs, the boils, the lesions, the stench of death lingering in the air. But this was different. This disease left no marks, no warnings, no time. They called it the sweating sickness. The first outbreak swept through London in August of 1485, only weeks after Henry VII's triumphal entry into the city. At first, the illness was dismissed as exhaustion, the result of overcrowding, summer heat, or spoiled food. But as more people fell ill and died, panic set in. Entire households were struck in a single day. A man could be healthy at breakfast and dead by evening. Servants collapsed while working. Merchants died behind their counters. Noblemen fell ill in their chambers, surrounded by wealth that offered no protection. What horrified people most was how fast it moved. This was not a lingering death. It did not wait. It hunted. Doctors were powerless. Medieval medicine still relied on ancient Greek theories of bodily humors. Physicians believed illness came from imbalance. Too much blood, too much bile, corrupted air. Treatments included bloodletting, purging, vomiting, herbal concoctions, and prayer. None of it helped. In many cases, treatments made the suffering worse. Victims were often wrapped tightly in blankets to encourage sweating, believed to expel the illness from the body. But the sweating sickness did not need encouragement. Sweat already poured relentlessly. Wrapped in heavy cloth, many patients overheated, weakened rapidly, and died. Some physicians advised rest and moderation. Others advised movement. No one truly knew what they were fighting. Fear spread faster than the disease itself. King Henry VII fled London repeatedly, moving from palace to palace, terrified of remaining in one place too long. His court dissolved into isolation. Officials avoided one another. Courts closed. Schools shut their doors. Trade slowed. London, one of the busiest cities in Europe, fell unnervingly quiet. Churches filled with prayers and funerals. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the sweating sickness vanished. No gradual decline. No explanation. Just absence. England was left shaken, traumatized, and deeply afraid, but alive. For a time, because the sickness returned. In 1508, it struck again, killing swiftly and without mercy. In 1517, another outbreak tore through England, particularly affecting London and Oxford. In 1528, the disease returned with even greater force, and this time, it did not stay confined to England. It crossed the sea. Cities across northern Europe began reporting identical symptoms. Hamburg, Bremen, Antwerp, Amsterdam. Entire communities shut down in terror. Universities closed within weeks of opening. In some towns, panic was so severe that people fled their homes, abandoning sick relatives behind locked doors. What made the sweating sickness even more terrifying was its unpredictability. Unlike plague, which often targeted the poor living in crowded conditions, the sweating sickness showed a strange preference. It often struck the young, the strong, the wealthy. Nobles, scholars, merchants, and courtiers were frequently among the dead. Children were less commonly affected. The elderly sometimes survived. Strength, it seemed, offered no defense. This inversion of expectation shook society to its core. If the strong could fall first, what hope did anyone have? The most detailed account of the disease came during the final major outbreak in 1551, recorded by a physician named John Caius. Caius observed the illness closely and described its symptoms with chilling precision. He noted the sudden onset, the violent sweating, the racing heart, the confusion, the unbearable thirst, and the deep exhaustion that followed. He also noted something else, the terror. Patients often experienced intense anxiety, a sense of impending death. Some begged for help even as their bodies failed. Others fell silent, slipping away with little outward struggle. Caius believed that surviving the first 24 hours greatly improved chances of recovery. But survival was never guaranteed. Some patients who appeared to recover suddenly collapsed and died days later. And then, after 1551, the sweating sickness disappeared completely. No confirmed outbreaks. No gradual evolution into another disease. No recorded reemergence. It had come to England, terrorized the nation for nearly 70 years, and vanished as suddenly as it arrived. This is where history becomes something darker, because no one ever discovered what caused it. Modern historians and medical researchers have proposed many theories. Some believe it may have been a viral hemorrhagic fever, similar to hantavirus, carried by rodents and triggered by specific environmental conditions. Others suggest a now extinct strain of influenza, unusually aggressive and short-lived. There are theories involving anthrax poisoning from contaminated wool, ergot fungus from spoiled grain, or bacterial infections no longer present. But none of these explanations fully account for the disease's behavior, its speed, its selectivity, its sudden disappearance. No preserved tissue samples exist. No DNA remains. No definitive answers. All that remains are written accounts, mass graves, and the echo of fear. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the sweating sickness is not how it killed, but how completely it vanished. Diseases do not usually disappear without a trace. They evolve. They adapt. They return under new names. This one did not. Some historians have wondered whether environmental conditions unique to late medieval England created the perfect storm. Climate shifts, rodent populations, living conditions, a combination that has never quite repeated itself. Others quietly ask a darker question. What if the conditions simply haven't returned yet? In a modern world shaped by pandemics, antibiotic resistance, and emerging viruses, the sweating sickness no longer feels like an ancient curiosity. It feels like a warning, a reminder that humanity has faced invisible killers before and survived without ever truly understanding them. Imagine living in a world where a bead of sweat could signal death, where sleep itself became dangerous, where touching another person felt like a gamble. This was not folklore. This was not legend. This happened. England endured the sweating sickness, but it never solved it. And somewhere in the shadows of history, the question remains unanswered. What exactly was sweating its way through England? And could it ever return? History does not only live in books. Sometimes it breathes quietly, invisibly, waiting to remind us how fragile certainty truly is. The sweating sickness left no monster, no villain, no final explanation. Only fear, memory, and unanswered questions. And perhaps that is what makes it so terrifying. If you're drawn to the dark corners of history, where truth and dread collide, you're in the right place. This is Dew of Dread, where real history is often more frightening than fiction. If this story held you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More true historical horrors are waiting, and some of them were never meant to be solved.